Hi folks, it's Mr. Yu here. We're just going to do a real short video um, review for the Chapter 3 test. I know some of you don't have to take it. As I mentioned, if you turned in that project that we kind of aborted because of the the Corona thing and we can't work in groups and stuff like that, we aborted that project. So if you didn't do the project, you have to do this test. But if you did turn in the project, I exempted you from the test. So for those that have to do the test, we're going to do a quick review here because we don't have the luxury of being able to read from the from the books. So I don't think the slideshow goes into enough detail to really allow you to have a real good chance for this test. So we're going to go over it just so that you do have a good chance of doing well on it. And so without any further ado, we're going to get going on it. So it's a basic test, much like the other, the ones that I've been giving you all along. I have to get rid of my sound here on the phone because it's driving me crazy. So there's some fill-in, there's some multiple choice, there's a whole boatload of true false, and so we're going to try and go over those, and then a couple of lists where you'll have to list a few things, but if you pay attention to this, then it shouldn't be an issue for you. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go over the test. I will later tonight post that test on Google Classroom along with the test answer sheet, so you do your answers on the answer sheet rather than right on the test. We're going to see how that works. Okay, so let's get started. I think what we'll do is get the fill in the blanks out of the way first, and so let's try one of those. So let's try this one here. It says blank is the manifestation of God's wisdom in all acts and movements. The part of this law that applies to people is called blank. So you have two blanks to fill in there. The first blank, the manifestation of God's wisdom in all actions and movements, or all acts and movements. What we're referring to for that blank is what we call eternal law or divine law. Either term would be okay with me. We're talking about the law of God, basically, which governs everything. The laws of nature, natural law, which will be the second part of the question, which refers to how we would behave in a moral sense. So the second part of that question says the part of this law that applies to people is called natural law. So that blank would be the natural law. Okay, and there's not going to be a word bank for this, so you need to know that. Let's go on to the next one. There are various state laws that prohibit murder. These laws are examples of blank, since they are consistent with God's laws and they conform to the natural law. So we would call them just laws, because they do fall in line with God's eternal law, as opposed to this other question which says a blank is one that fails to conform to the divine or natural law. We would call that an unjust law. Okay. Let's see, do we have any other fill in the blankers here? I guess I wouldn't call any of the other ones fill in the blank. So let's do the multiple choice next. And again, we're doing this out of order, so don't just memorize what I'm telling you in the exact order, because you are going to not do well if you do that. Actually, you can replay this video, and there's really nothing stopping you from doing that. So there's really no reason for you guys not to do well on this test. All right, fill in the blank, or not? I'm sorry, not the fill in the blank. The multiple choice. Here's one. Let's try this one. Every human act can be evaluated from three distinct perspectives. What are they? So you're going to have an A, B, C, and D on that. And you're going to look for the one that gives you this answer. So every human act has three things involved with it. There's the object, which is basically the thing that you're doing, or the act itself. There's the intention. So what inside here, what's your intention? I guess more accurately from your heart. What's your intention? And then the third part is the circumstances. And circumstances can increase or decrease your culpability depending on what they are and what the consequence of that is. Okay, so that's that one. Let's see, can we find another multiple choice? There's only a few multiple choice here. Okay, in general, the purpose of law is to blank. It's not to keep people under control by limiting our choice. It's not to prevent people from enjoying life. In fact, you know, just laws would serve to do just the opposite. You would be able to enjoy your life much more free when everyone's doing what they're supposed to do and not infringing on your freedom. So you're going to look for the answer that says to allow people a proper measure of freedom while protecting their rights and also reminding them that they also have responsibilities too. In general, the purpose of law is to allow people a proper measure of freedom while protecting their rights and also reminding them that they have responsibilities as well. Okay, I think this is the last of the multiple choice, I'm pretty sure. And the question is, what are two basic characteristics of the natural law? And it's not for feelings. Really, law should not be based on feelings. So if you see an answer that says, well, it should, you know, natural law should be based on good feelings and self-esteem and all that kind of fuzzy stuff, warm fuzzy stuff, that's not right. The truth is natural law is always universal, so it applies across the board to everybody, no matter what religion you are or aren't. And natural law is also immutable, so it does not change. Okay, you know, just because it's 2020 doesn't mean something is okay now, because society might say it's okay. Whereas 50 years ago, you know, you think it wasn't okay. Natural law is immutable, so it doesn't change. So if it's wrong in 1955, it's still wrong today. Okay, so the two basic characteristics of natural law: universal and immutable. All right, let's do some of these we're going to do some of these true-false. And I don't think I want to go for all of them, because some of them I think you should be able to, you know, use your noggin and figure it out, and based on the teachings we've already kind of gone through, or you know, the stuff you see on the slides. I don't think I need to go every single one, but we'll do a few. All right, true or false? If a Christian actively violates an unjust law, this is an unjust law, he is immune from civil punishment since he is following his conscience. What would you think about that? Hopefully it's fairly obvious. Okay, we're talking about civil law here. So if someone violates a law that they feel is unjust, they're not immune from punishment. For instance, you know, back in, what would we think would be an unjust law? So, yeah, maybe you think paying taxes is an unjust law, and you can debate that another time. So, because I think it's an unjust law, I'm not going to do it, and therefore I'm immune from punishment. So that's certainly false. You will be punished under the civil courts, even if something, you know, is considered unjust and maybe it is unjust. So no matter what, if it's a civil law and you violate it, you can be subject to punishment. Okay, to rehabilitate a criminal is good because we want to be inclusive of all people. Hopefully you see that as a true statement. We do want to rehabilitate people. We don't want to consider anybody a lost cause or, you know, an expendable type of person. So rehabilitation is good. So that is a true statement. Next, right and wrong have been established by God from all eternity and therefore cannot be determined by a popular vote. That was pretty obvious. Hopefully you'd put true for that. Let's see. Okay, circumstances can reduce the culpability for a given sin, but no circumstances can ever make something that is intrinsically evil into something good. So if it is evil, evil is evil. So if it's intrinsically evil, no matter what the circumstances are, you could never consider it a good act because of what it is. You know, and again, we talk about natural law being immutable, and universal. And so if it's evil, it violates natural law. No circumstance is going to change that. Okay. The one thing that modern secular ethics shares with Catholic teaching is that they both agree on the existence of objective good and evil. What do you think about that? Modern secular ethics. Do they share the belief that Catholics hold that there is an objective good and an objective evil? I don't think so. If you look around in our society, things that are accepted certainly go against church teaching, so that would be a false statement. Here's one that kind of falls under the, I guess, consequentialism or situational ethics. When we talk about, kind of false truths. Okay, here it is. It is justifiable to make contraceptives available to unmarried teenagers since they are going to have sex anyway. And even though the church teaches that contraception is sinful, it's better than having unwanted pregnancies. Certainly that one would be false. So it's never justifiable to make contraceptives available to unmarried teenagers because you think that it's the lesser of two evils. Again, that would be probably fall under the umbrella of what we call proportionalism, which is one of the errors in moral relativism. It's called proportionalism. So if the consequence the consequence has a good effect and it outweighs the bad effect, then it's justifiable. And we call that proportionalism. Okay, here's another one. Circumstances can reduce the culpability for a given sin, but no oh, I'm sorry, we already did that one. Okay, here's another one. For a court to punish a criminal is a good thing because it fosters justice. Hopefully we would agree with that, or we'd have a bunch of criminals running around and we'd be living in a possibly chaotic society, even more so than we do now. Okay. I think the rest of these you should probably be able to get on your own, so I'm going to leave them with that. A couple other questions we got to figure out here, and then we'll let you go. So here's this part of the test is where you're going to need to come up with a list. So this question says to list the 4 conditions under which something that is morally evil may be tolerated under the principle of double effect. And remember, we had that video posted a few days ago that kind of gave you some clarification on what we mean by the principle of double effect. Hopefully that that video sunk in and you have a pretty good idea what double effect is. So anyway, the 4 conditions under which something that is morally evil may be tolerated under this principle of double effect. First condition, action must be good. So it has to be a good action. All these, the action or object, intention, and circumstance all have to be good. So number 1, action must be good. Number 2, the agent or the person doing the action must have the right intention. Number 3, the evil effects cannot be the means of the good effect. So in other words, the ends can't always justify the means. So if it's an evil means, evil effect cannot be the means of a good effect. And finally, number 4, the good effect must balance the evil effect. So there has to be a relative balance there. So only if those 4 conditions are met may we apply the principle of double effect. We can allow something morally evil to be tolerated. Okay, this one here, you're going to state whether these are different types of moral relativism. So you're going to get a definition, and you have to state whether this is an example of situation ethics, consequentialism, or proportionalism. So these are all errors in moral theology. First one, this error teaches that actions cannot be judged on their own but only within the context or circumstances in which they are committed. So again, this error teaches that actions cannot be judged on their own, but only within the context or circumstances in which they are connected. In other words, you can't judge an act unless you know everything. You need to know the circumstances, or you can't judge an act. You can't judge an action. And that's it's a false way of thinking, because an evil action is an evil action, no matter what. But that justification is called situational ethics. That would be an example of situational ethics. Okay, next one. This error relativizes actions by measuring the degree of good in the result of the action to the evil that was done to bring it about. So if the total good is greater than the total evil, then that evil can be accepted. We would call that, we're balancing things out, we would call that proportionalism. So that was the error called proportionalism. And so the last one, this erroneous way of thinking ignores the objective goodness or evil of an act and focuses only on the results of the action. So someone does something evil, but something good comes out of it, then it's good. We can justify that. That is consequentialism. That is an example of consequentialism. Okay. All right, and the last part of the test, I think it's the last part. It says here, here's what you got to do. Among the 4 statements below, identify which describes the object, intention, and circumstance that determines the morality of an act, or if it's none of these, then you just say none. Okay. So, all right, the motives of a person, or the motives a person has for committing a good or evil act. The motives a person has for committing a good or evil act. That would be the intention. The intention. Next one, the factors that occur with an act and contribute to the morality of the act. So the factors that contribute to the morality of the act, we would call that those circumstances. Those would be the circumstances. The next statement, the action itself, which is either good or evil by its nature, we will call that the object. So remember, we have the object, the intention, and the circumstance. Those are all part of a human act. So that part of it will be called the object. And the last statement is the feelings of the person committing the act. Would that be object, intention, or circumstances? That's none of those. Feelings don't play into the morality of an act at all. You can't just, it just feels right or it doesn't feel right. It either is or it isn't. So I believe that's it. And so it's, what am I looking at here? It's about 20 after 9 on Sunday night. I've worked all day, and I'm pretty tired. So I'm pretty sure you guys are tired of listening to me. So we're going to leave it at that. Watch for some more YouTubes. This is Holy Week coming up. I want to remind all of you that this is Holy Week starting today, today being Palm Sunday. So every day I will post a reflection and a prayer to help us to kind of work our way through Holy Week and culminating in next Sunday, one of the most unusual Easter Sundays you will hopefully ever have to experience in your lifetime, where we're going to do everything virtually. Okay, so all you have a great night. Look forward to seeing you again sometime soon, and good luck on the test. Take care.